Good morning. It's 31 degrees outside. It's going to be 41 at Nobby's at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And we don't have air conditioning in our flat. So I have a plan. I'm going to stay here and just keep talking until it cools down. It's predicted to be 29 in Newcastle at midnight tonight. If you happen to fall asleep during that period while I'm still talking, that will feel natural to me. If you get up and walk away, that will feel very strange to me. But feel free to. I want to add my welcome to you this morning, everybody, but especially if you're here for the first time, especially if you've come, maybe you've been strong-armed by somebody you're visiting for Christmas, and you're really not quite sure why you said yes, and you're not even quite sure that God exists or that God matters, and you've still turned up and you're still here, and you get to go home before midnight, I promise. Then especially hats off to you for being open-minded and doing your own research. The series we're doing at the moment is only a short one of 3 Sundays. Well, no, 3 meetings, not Sundays, of God with us, Immanuel, which is what the word Immanuel means, God with us. So last Sunday, today, and Christmas Day. I got this shirt out to wear today, and Anna said, "You can't use that shirt. The collar is puckered." And I thought, what does it need, a kiss or something? Like, what is it? And I had to say, no, this is a special shirt for today. And I have to wear this shirt because we are starting with, oh yeah, I've got the device, haven't I? The story of the shirt. Many of you will know that Anna and I have had the privilege of living in Nepal, also pronounced Nepal, for some years. And we have a friend in Nepal, who goes to our church. He's a tailor, and he makes clothes, and he makes clothes very beautifully in a very ancient sewing machine in his house. And we've had the fun of giving him various materials and saying, "Can you make me a shirt? Can you make me a long sleeve shirt, a short sleeve shirt?" And he measures me up with, his tape measure. And the first one he made for me was in 2007, and I wore it for church here once, and it was in lots of pictures because it's my favourite shirt and useful shirt over there. And he'll make a top for Anna or a dress or something. And one time we went to collect the things, as we do, and there's always a bit of a chat and, a bit of storytelling, a bit of how are you and stuff, and eventually gets around to saying how much we should pay him for it. And it's, as you would imagine, amazingly cheap for all that skill. And this time there were 3 shirts for me to pick up. And this was about 6 years ago, I guess, 7 years ago. And there was body language change in our friend, the tailor, when it came to handing over the shirts. And there was obviously something he wanted to say and was kind of working up the courage to say. And eventually he said, "Dr. Steve, this shirt," which was folded up and looking beautiful, he said, "This shirt, maybe you should only wear this shirt in Australia." And I said, "Well, that's fine. We're going back to Australia soon. I'll be taking it with me," and I intended to take it with me. "But why?" And he said, "Because this is the material that we make underpants from." And what a kind thing to do. I still sometimes, when I'm wearing it in Australia, think, I kind of hope that there's a Nepali somewhere out there going, "Oh, look at this dopey Aussie wearing an underpants shirt," But that story reminded me of our first months of living in Nepal in particular, because when you go to somewhere that's completely different, you find yourself to be like a child. We couldn't even cross the road. We still have trouble crossing the road. But little Nepali kids can cross the road. But we're like, how do you get across this road? How do I pay the bills? Now I'm actually renting a flat and not just in a hotel or something. How do you pay the electricity bill and the telephone bill? And how do I put the garbage out? And there is no garbage bin. And in fact, I haven't seen a garbage truck. And there's none in the street. And where do you find a public toilet when you're out and about during the day? And I realised that although we had adult bodies and I had wrinkles. My wife doesn't have wrinkles. There's the adult body, but in function, we were children. And we couldn't answer those simple things and do those simple things like cross the road. And we could even order shirts out of the wrong kind of material. Years later, that happened. So it reminded me that no matter how much we learnt, there was always more to learn, and there was always other stuff that we needed to hear about. How do we cope with all those childish kind of problems? Well, the reason we coped really was because of gracious friends. Gracious friends who were Nepali friends who helped us figure out what to do with the rubbish and how to pay this bill and that bill and how to cross the road and those kinds of things. And they did it in a way that didn't make us feel stupid, even though in essence we were stupid. But we were like children, but there was no condescension in the way that they gave us that love and guidance. And it still happens now. We've still got lots to learn. We still wonder about the funny mistakes we make with our language or with our cultural behaviour, etc. So people entered our world and bent down to us like children and cared for us. That's a good fun story. I hope it was a good fun story. I still enjoy thinking about it myself. But this week hasn't been good fun stories, has it? This week has been really confronting and really sad and really in our face. What happened when things get extreme like they did at Bondi reminds us that the world is full of brokenness. But in the same instance, in the same place at the same time, we didn't just see brokenness, we also saw incredible selflessness, incredible courage, incredible love for other people, and people throwing themselves on top of kids, not even their own kids. And so in the one instance, we've got humanity at its best and humanity at its worst. There's great good and great evil. And I couldn't comprehend it. I saw those pictures. It was a bit like the 9/11 thing where you're looking at it thinking, am I really looking at this? Is this real? Is there really someone shooting at people who don't have guns to shoot back with, It's just too big for my head. I can't comprehend it. It is what we just sang. Inconceivable, isn't it? It's hard to make sense of it. It's too bad to comprehend, but then the good things that happened, they were almost too good to comprehend as well, weren't they? We humans are capable of great good and great evil. I say we because I am too. And you don't have to go any further than the nearest mirror to find someone who isn't perfect, who isn't wanting to be better and sometimes succeeding and plenty of times failing. We've all got that inside us, a flaw. And that brokenness inside us affects everything. It affects who I am as a person. It affects the relationship I have with you or anybody else. And so the friendships and the relationships in our family that are supposed to be good and encouraging and building us up, they get tainted by that brokenness. And we lose friendships. And we become estranged from people in our family over stuff. Sometimes it's really trivial stuff. But it's the brokenness in us and the brokenness in them that rubs up against each other and the relationship's lost. It affects our planet. We haven't really, woken up to that until quite recent years, but we realise now that if we keep living the way we're living, maybe we're going to muck things up for the people who come after us. And we have to think very clearly about how we're going to live our lives now and when is enough enough. And can I just keep pursuing whatever I want? And the planet itself might be in bad nick for the next generations that come. And the big one is it affects our relationship with God. The brokenness inside us. Maybe God doesn't exist. Or I'm going to live like that God doesn't exist. Well, God does exist, and all that God's there for is to point fingers at us and judge us and to be a bully and a judge, which is not what God is like. But the brokenness in us drives us down that road. And so we rebel. As one of the New Testament writers put it, we become enemies of God. Brokenness is an internal problem. That's what happens inside us. Jesus' disciples, Jesus got into trouble because of the way his disciples behaved at one point. So in Matthew 15, the big church leaders of the time, the bishops, etc., equivalent of bishops and popes or whatever, came to Jesus and said, your disciples don't wash their hands properly before they eat meals. And they would have got in trouble from my mum as well, had my mum been there to witness that. But Jesus said, you think it's washing your hands that defiles you? No, the stuff that defiles you is what's inside you. Jesus said it's an internal problem. It's not what goes into someone's mouth. That doesn't defile them, but it's what comes out of the mouth. And in one of these parables, it was one of the times when Jesus asked, or the disciples said to Jesus, can you explain that one a bit more for us? So off on the side, Jesus said, yeah, it's from the heart come the evil ideas that lead people to kill, to commit adultery, to rob, to lie, to slander other people. That's verse 19 in Matthew 15. So what is God's response to the brokenness? And I'm going to keep using the word brokenness. Those of you who've come for years and years know that I'm avoiding using the word sin. It's not like it's a bad word. Sin's an accurate word. But I just wonder in our society now, it's become almost a comical word. You know, the sin bin when you're playing rugby league. It's like the naughty corner kind of thing. And there's much more to sin than naughtiness, if you want to put it that way, or getting caught out. Brokenness. So what's God's response to brokenness? I've got a number one there because I thought after I've written this talk, we're Baptists and we're supposed to have 3 points and I don't. So this subsection's got 3 points. Is that good enough? Everybody's happy with that? Good, okay. So you can count them with me. Don't count backwards from 10, count up from 1 till we get to 3 before we move on to the next section. So God's first response to the brokenness of the world is Immanuel, God with us. God's coming down to live on this planet with us. And it's a big story, and starts a long time ago and hasn't properly finished yet. But one of the big bits of the story is Christmas. God shows up in his own creation. There's a special word we use for it, incarnation. I'm not really a big fan of big theological words in general, but I do like the word incarnation. Where does it come from? What do herbivores eat? Herbs. What do carnivores eat? Meat. Yeah? Carnivorous, you're a meat eater. So the word carn in incarnation means meat or flesh or body. So God, who is spirit, and Jesus said that himself, God is spirit, we must worship him in spirit and in truth, has become body as well in the coming of Jesus. And that's the Christmas story when that's the spotlight's been put on that. And so what we're saying is a big claim. We're saying that when you're looking at Jesus, you're looking at God. God's a spirit, invisible, can't see. But if you look at Jesus, you're looking at God. This is still section 1 of 3. It's just another slide, don't get confused. So the Christmas story is in Matthew and Luke. So the first 4 books of the New Testament concentrate on Jesus' life, and 2 of the 4 describe the Christmas story for us. The other 2 don't describe the Christmas story. It's interesting. And you know the Christmas story. Good. Who are the main characters? Joseph, Mary, Jesus, wise men, shepherds, probably an innkeeper, the little drummer boy. Wise men, did I say that? King Herod. And where are the locations and the props? Sheep, a stable, a food trough, swaddling clothes, and a star. And Santa Claus. No, not Santa Claus either. And so that's the version we read in Matthew and Luke, and that we make the nativity scenes, etc., to remind ourselves of that story. And what about the story by the Gospel of John? It doesn't mention those things at all. It starts like this. In the beginning was the Word with a capital W, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. So John's Christmas story starts so far back in time, it's actually outside of time, before time was invented. John's saying Jesus is the creator. Nothing was made unless Jesus said it should be made. Oh, but didn't Jesus turn up in Bethlehem? Well, he did another time. Jesus and God are the same thing. Hard to get your head around, but that's the argument that John puts up and follows all the way through his book, right to the end. When you're looking at Jesus, you're looking at God. Nothing is an accident. There is a point of view out there, maybe it's a majority point of view now, that everything exists because it just exists. You know, no one made it start and no one's going to be there to finish it off, and it just is stuff. We don't think that as Christians. We think that everything exists because God said, let there be. And so there's no coincidence at all that the first 3 words of John's book, in the beginning, are the first 3 words of Genesis, the whole Bible, in the beginning. We're talking about the same God. So Christianity makes this very bold claim. Oh, sorry, there's one more version of Christmas. We're still in 1. We've got 2 more to go. They'll be quick, don't worry. So this is Paul writing to the Philippians. This is what I call Paul's version of Christmas. He gave up all he had and took the nature of a servant. He became a man and appeared in human likeness. He was humbled and walked the path of obedience. That's Paul's version of Christmas. It started a long time ago, not in Bethlehem. It started where God left the safety of heaven and was humble enough to come and live on earth. So Christianity makes this incredibly bold claim. Almost inconceivable. Princess Bride. Indescribable, incomprehensible. That the God who is responsible for all things existing has become a creature in his own creation. And not just that, a person. And so that we have a God that knows what it's like to go to a wedding, or a funeral, or to cry themselves to sleep, or to be exhausted, or to be victorious, to laugh, to interact with animals, to know loyalty of friendship, to know betrayal of friends, to face death, to know pain, and to actually die. Now, there's a contradiction there somewhere, isn't there? The immortal dies. That's one of the Christmas carols, isn't it? One of the songs that gets sung at the Orthodox churches around the place repeats this thing. What is this thing that the immortal can die? Immortal means you can't die. But our God knows something about that by experience. Not just because he's smart and he knows the number of hairs on everyone's head in this room, and that's not a very difficult calculation for him, but because he has lived these things. Point 2 of 3. It's going to be a brief one, don't worry. God's response to the brokenness inside us is to come to earth and die. So Jesus didn't just come to teach, but he was a fantastic teacher, and we're repeating his teachings 2,000 years later in any language you want to name across the world. He came to teach, definitely. He came to be an example. How should I be a human being? What's the best kind of human being a human being can be? Jesus is being an example. He came to live among us, to be with us, all of those things. But he also came with a very specific task to die. The death and resurrection of Jesus is the means by which we stop being enemies with God and become friends. And so God's response is to send Jesus to live and be an example and to teach, but also to die. Number 3, God's response to the brokenness in us and our world is the sending of the Spirit. This is Jesus speaking towards the end of his life to his disciples. If you love me, keep my commands. And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate. Advocate, we can use the word helper, to help you and be with you forever. The Spirit of truth. The world cannot accept him. It neither sees him nor knows him, but you know him, for he lives with you and will be in you. I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. So Jesus was going to depart the planet, but the Spirit was going to come in place. So there's brokenness in us for sure, all of us, but God's Spirit can be in us as well. God's Spirit inspiring us, empowering us, encouraging us, warning us, forgiving us, energizing us, the stuff on the inside. We said it was an internal problem, and now we have the internal presence of God's Spirit. I know all this stuff sounds abstract, but it's real. Let's talk about, so God's not just with us as an example, but within us, inside us. Maybe that makes more sense to some women who've had kids, I don't know. But there's a life inside you at some points of life that is so mysterious, and it's a mystery. But because it's mysterious doesn't mean it's not real. Let's talk about something a bit more concrete for a minute. Christmas is different. Yeah, different time of year. We eat different food. We sometimes wait 12 months to do mince pies again or whatever. We sing different songs. So the carols we sing at Christmas, we don't sing them during the year. There's music that's different for this time of year. We give gifts. We do that sometimes during the year, don't we, for birthdays or other special occasions. We decorate, tinsel, lights, Christmas tree, and we connect with various relatives and friends that often it'll be 12 months before we get to connect with those people again. And they're the happy routines of Christmas for many of us. But it's not all happy for everybody. We miss people at Christmas, especially if someone's died since the last Christmas, or they've moved away and they can't be with us this time, or even sadder, possibly, that we've had some kind of a fight with them and we haven't resolved that, and now we're estranged from them. There's sadness at Christmas as well. And because we have such good weather in Australia, we have more deaths in the rivers and the beaches and on the roads because we're all out having fun and the number of people taking risks increases. We also retell the Christmas story. And I'm not going to do that right now. But I wonder, as for those of us who've been Christians a long time or lived in a Christian world, the impact of the story has been lost by the fact that we repeat it so many times, and it's actually a pretty short story. But there should be something about the Christmas story that makes us kind of go, what? Huh? Serious? Every time we hear it. Like, if Jesus is so important, why is he being born in an animal shed? And why not a better place than that? And why in the first century? Why not wait till the 21st century, which would have mucked up the BC thing terribly, but at least Mary could have had an epidural. How come the first people to be told about it were the low caste, if you want to put it that way, the night shift shepherds? Angels, this most amazing beings that terrify everybody showed up to who? The guys in the palace? No. The Pharisees? No. The leaders of the law? No. The leaders of the church? No. The synagogue? No. Turned up to the night shift shepherds, sang amazingly loudly, freaked them out, but they all got up and went and found Jesus and worshipped him. And then they went off and told other people what they'd seen. And how can we call Jesus a king, really, when we know the end of the story? No army, no government, no fame, executed as a young man, not a very successful king. We have trouble as Christians comprehending all this stuff. The problem of comprehension, or I would say lack of comprehension, or inconceivable, this word you keep using. Because we're talking about eternity. We're talking about a spirit living inside us. We're talking about big things, mysterious things, things that kind of make our brain go, I don't really get it completely. Just like the images we saw of Bondi, I don't really get it. My brain's not big enough for this thing. I've talked about this before, and I probably, the danger of asking me back is I've only got a few ideas and I'll start repeating myself. But, we have analogies, like God's like an elephant and we're like a mouse. Well, that's not good enough, is it? God invented elephants and mice. It's not a big enough difference. And you'd be scratching your heads thinking, where in the Bible did I get that from? Well, it's not in the Bible because it's not good enough, is it? All right. God's like an elephant and we are like the left back foot of a mouse. It's not good enough, is it? It's not in the Bible either. It's not good enough. The difference isn't big enough. God is so big and we are so small. How on earth are we going to fit this into our head? And kings, like modern kings don't actually have much power, do they? Is that a good analogy for us? It's too abstract, it's too big, it's too other. But the Bible's very honest about the problem of comprehension. One was quoted only a few minutes ago before I got up. Philippians 4, God's peace. How's it described? Far beyond human understanding. Can't comprehend it. It's too big for you. Oh, it's an important thing, and we'll try, and we'll go down trying, don't worry, but we'll never get to the end of that comprehension. God's love. In Ephesians 3, Paul's saying, I really wish you could know God's love. I'm praying that you're going to know God's love, how big it is and how wide it is and how deep it is, and, well, it can never be fully known. Honesty, it's too much for our heads. 1 Corinthians 13. Human understanding is like a dim image in a mirror. And comprehension here on earth is described as partial. Oh, later on, we won't have a 1.2 kilogram brain made out of mostly fat and interacting neurons. We'll have something else that's more capable of understanding bigger things. But even there, will we? I don't know. God's infinite. And I think the gospel story is like God saying, I see you. You look a bit like adults in children in adult bodies. You're trying to grasp me. You're trying to understand me. You're trying to comprehend. You're groping around. But look, even the oldest and wisest amongst you are just a few decades old. And I'm not going to tell you my date of birth because I don't have one. I invented time. And the smartest among you, 1.2 kilogram brain, mostly fat, I invented brains. You guys, I personally have trouble understanding what 1,000 really means. I know how to write it and I know how to calculate it, but you ask me to comprehend 1,000 and how it's different to 889 or 1,012, I can't comprehend that. God says, yeah, well, I created 1,000,000, and in fact, I created infinity. You're not going to make it. And so God left the safety of heaven and he came down to us, as our Nepali friends came down to us when we were kids, dressed in adult bodies, and says, you'll never comprehend me fully. You'll never fathom eternity or infinity, but I will come and live with you. I will be Immanuel. And the best chance you'll get as a human of understanding what I'm like is when I come disguised as a human. Not any old human, Jesus. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's a miracle. What God did is a miracle. And what C.S. Lewis said is that's the grandfather miracle. All the other miracles, they look at their ancestry and find that one. All the other miracles find their truth in that greatest miracle. All right. Can we really be more like Jesus? I think I asked this question last time I was out the front. So, yeah, it's one of my favourite questions. And I've said before, it sounds a bit arrogant to say, I would like to be more like Jesus, the most famous human being that's ever lived, the most powerful human being that's ever lived, the most caring, the most wise, the most intelligent, the most generous. I want to be more like that. I want to be like the creator of the universe. All right, where are you going to start? Create a universe? Or as I've learned, I think multiverse is the new term, is it? Good luck. Off you go. Have a go. Walk on water? Have a go? Don't have a go, please. Unless Jesus asks you to come out of the boat and walk, as he did with someone once. Please don't try and walk on water. Feed 5,000 people with a kid's lunch. Actually, before you get to feeding 5,000 with a kid's lunch, just keep 5,000 people entertained all day to the point that they get hungry, they've been listening for so long and didn't want to leave, and do it without a microphone. Good luck. So the cynic in me says, no, you're aiming too high, Pickering. We can't really be more like Jesus. But cynics are a bit narrow-minded, thankfully. There's another part of me that says, of course we can be more like Jesus, and we should be. And if we're followers of Jesus, we should be. That should be our life aim, is how can I be more like Jesus? And can the Christmas story help me with this? Here's a few things. I promise I'm going to finish in a sec. We could be more humble. I could be more humble. The Christmas story surely is about humility. The great creator of the universe is happy to come down to this level and live this life and do so in a very obscure place and under very strange circumstances. The angels appeared to Joseph and Mary and explained what was going to happen to them, and they both went, whew, okay. And they were humble enough to walk this strange path that was put before them. Less strut and more humility. That's a way I could become less like Jesus, more like Jesus. We could be like the wise men and women and bend our knees and worship Jesus. And thank you to all the people who've helped us do that by singing. And they'll be the first people to tell you we also worship Jesus by the way that we live our lives and offer ourselves as a living sacrifice is also worship. We could be worshipping like the privileged shepherds, I call them. Why privileged? Because they're on night shift. They're probably not educated. They're certainly not wealthy. They're doing hard yakka. But that's who God chose to say, first, this is a great story and you need to be part of it. We can accept the rocky road we must walk. Life's full of sad things. And this week we saw it amplified enormously. And we will have sad and difficult things happen to us on this planet. And if that's the road that's ahead of us, we should walk it as followers of Jesus, doing our best to love God and love our neighbour. And just give me 1 minute for the last one. The second last one, yes, the little drummer boy. The little drummer boy turned up 1,941 years late to the nativity scene. But there is a nice line in the song about how he's not rich, he's got nothing to give Jesus as a gift, but he'll play his best for Jesus. I will play my best for him. Will you and I play our best for Jesus with the resources we've been given, with the life that we've been given, with the family and situation we've been given? We should be even learning from the little drummer boy. And the last one. I think back to this shirt story and the other people who helped us in those first months when we had adult bodies, but we were like children, completely dependent and completely confused about how to achieve even the simplest of things, and how graciously people who did know that world reached down to us and helped us and did it in a way without making us feel stupid. Whenever you're in your home turf, maybe it's this church, maybe it's your house, maybe it's your group of friends, maybe it's your gym, your soccer team, your whatever that is familiar to you, and a new person comes in who doesn't know that world and how to behave in that world. You have an opportunity to echo the graciousness of the Incarnation and say, without making a fuss, without making them feel small, come, be welcome, be part of this world. I'll help you understand how not to embarrass yourself, etc. We can do that. If you would like someone to pray with you after the service, Barbara and myself will be here down the front, and you can do that. Let's be more like Jesus in whatever way we can think of doing so. Thank you.